Thank you all for joining. Today we're covering a very interesting topic, which is NIST SP 800-207. Let's just take a quick look at the agenda. Of course, we're going to cover NIST at a very high level and talk about this special publication. And then we're going to talk about zero trust data access. We're going to talk about the challenges that exist within SaaS application environments. And of course, we're going to do a solution demonstration, as well as highlight how DoControl is helping solve for these challenges and really complementing existing zero trust architectures and strategies. Okay, so NIST. Everybody knows NIST. If you're attending this webinar, it's I imagine you're familiar with who they are and what they do. For the uninformed, NIST is really the standard, the de facto standard for not only federal agencies. It's dedicated for securing IT information infrastructure for the federal government, but any business that any organization that's doing business in the public and private sector relies on NIST to help create very strong security architectures and programs. And so the NIST Cybersecurity framework is the blueprint for most companies. They just revised it not too long ago and actually just released a ransomware risk management profile. So some guidance on what controls to put in place and mitigation strategies for ransomware attacks. But in the world of zero trust, zero trust is really the new set of principles that CISOs and practitioners are aligning to for their security program. So if zero trust is what you're trying to make a practical reality, then this new special publication is really a great place to get started, or it's a great kind of, reference point. All right, so, okay, here we go. So some of the slides did not port over correctly, but we're talking about, again, NIST SP 800-207. So this is the image that I pulled directly from that report, and it's covering the zero trust logical components. So this report came out, I think it was August of 2020. So it's been out for a bit of time now. What does it provide? It provides design advice, implementation considerations, use case examples, technology gaps that exist within modern zero trust architectures. And again, on the webinar today, that we want to focus on the data access control engine and the policy elements, again, specifically across SaaS. Think about the reliance on cloud-based and as-a-service offerings, as well as the way that we are structured. Remote work is now the new norm, right? So this is how the modern business is getting work done. They're relying on SaaS applications, and they're relying on internal users and external vendors and collaborators to help move the business forward. And SaaS is a big driver as part of that. And when you look at zero trust, most organizations have made adjustments, right, to remove implicit trust from their users and their systems, and they need to continuously monitor how those users are interacting with data. Securing SaaS is the next logical step, or the next critical step, as zero trust programs continue to evolve and improve. And that's, this is what DoControl is trying to help solve for. Okay, so let's highlight how NIST is actually defining zero trust. So in the report, they describe zero trust as an evolving set of cybersecurity paradigms that move defenses from static network-based perimeters to focus on users, assets, and resources. So let's dissect these three focus areas a bit, because it's obviously relevant to what we're discussing today. Today, most organizations have an identity solution in place to manage and secure access at the identity level. So establishing the appropriate levels of permissions for each user, each identity, each account that's relevant to that user. So, any given individual within a business can have a number of different accounts. So access needs to be provisioned to all of the accounts for that user to be effective in their role. And that's where least privilege is critical. So you never assume trust. You have to demand authentication and authorization for each of these identities. And it needs to be dynamic in nature and strictly enforce access on demand, and again, more dynamic. Second, users. So in order to connect users to the assets that they need to get their actual job done, you have zero trust network access. So this gets brought into the fold. ZTNA is essentially VPN-less technology that is providing secure access to end users wherever they're located. So they're trying to connect to corporate drives, networks, applications, so on and so forth from anywhere, right? Remote work is how we get the job done. Excuse me. So those users need a secure connection, and ZTNA is what's brokering that access securely to those target systems and applications. And the third thing is the resources. Once you get past those two foundational components of identity and ZTNA, then those users have unfettered access to the applications that they should have access to. But the challenge is you have different identities or users, internal and external users, that are accessing, sharing sensitive files and data across these SaaS applications. And controlling who has access to what is a foundational piece of zero trust. And again, the majority of organizations have introduced some of these tools and technologies at the identity, the device, and the network levels. But in order to protect the critical resources, which again, going back to NIST, you have to go beyond those three layers. You have to go deeper beyond identity, beyond the device and the network, and directly into the SaaS application data layer. And that's exactly what we do at DoControl. So just quickly covering, the next phase of zero trust. Excuse me. Initially, the early components within zero trust were focused on micro-segmentation and micro-perimeters. Over time, identity became the new perimeter. Again, this is nothing new. This is really a natural evolution of how organizations operate and do business. Again, the next phase, this is where what we're trying to help close the gap on is introducing those granular data access controls so organizations can improve their security posture and experience a more comprehensive, a more complete zero trust architecture through deeper levels of security across those applications that are trying to drive the business forward. So, a big marketing message that we have at DoControl is moving security closer to what drives the business forward. So let's just quickly cover this slide. So this is the current state. So you have your identity provider, Okta, Google Workspace, OneLogin, Azure AD. Again, these are the tools and technologies that are provisioning access at the identity level. The next piece is secure connection, zero trust network access. We covered this. You have Duo, BeyondCorp Enterprise, Perimeter 81, Cato Networks. And once you get through those layers, you're in, right? So those identities then have access to a number of different applications. And when you think about the average enterprise, they have upwards of, somewhere between 150 and 200 SaaS applications. Now consider the number of identities, both internal and external, right? So this is a scalable problem. You have a huge number of users accessing hundreds of different applications. And then within those applications, you have thousands and thousands of files that are being accessed, manipulated, and shared internally, externally. It's a problem. And it's something that really can't be achieved with a homegrown solution, or if you try to tackle it with the manual, native feature functionality of each application provider. Because, as an example, a lot of these content collaboration applications have controls around public and private sharing, but they're very limited. These applications are designed to enable productivity. They're not security solutions. Of course, using there's a requirement for the vendor to have a strong security posture to use it, but how it's consumed and used by the actual organization, the consumer of the application, that is a responsibility that falls on them. And that's what DoControl is here to help. We're here to partner with organizations to ensure that the applications that are being utilized and adopted are being done so in a secure way. So that's the opportunity. This is the gap that exists within data access controls. On the right-hand side, you can see the unmanageable access. You have a number of different personas. You have temporary employees, contractors, remote vendors, ex-vendors. You have employees that have left the company. You have private accounts, former employees. It's not uncommon for employees when they leave their employer to take with them sensitive data and files. I think everyone is guilty at some point. It's not always sensitive. It could be projects that you had worked on, and you feel maybe you own that file and this is something that I created. The reality is that piece of content, those files should remain with your former employer, but they don't. And if you create an environment where you can enable access through a public link, depending on organizational settings, you can have files that are indefinitely accessible by anybody. So again, the point is not all of this content is sensitive, but some of it is, a good percentage of it is. And beyond that, what we're trying to do is minimize data overexposure and create kind of a data and file hygiene, making sure that it's least privilege, making sure that users have access for the appropriate amount of time, and then it's revoked after it's no longer needed. So let's cover zero trust data access. So there's three core pillars. The first one is continuous monitoring. So we subscribe to all internal and external user activities and events, the SaaS asset metadata, and then data enrichments across all of these interconnected integrations. So things like your IDP, things like your EDR solution, things like your HR application. All of these data points are then aggregated, and then we combine them to enable deep data access segmentation or micro segmentation across multiple different levels, which would be things like users, assets, groups, employment status, domains, and many others. And what we do is it's asset management. So we keep an inventory of all of your SaaS ecosystem's metadata without having to replicate and store the data itself. Our solution is completely agentless. It's not in the data path. There's no software installations of any kind. And then again, by taking all of this SaaS application metadata, we can provide visibility, a clear view of all the identities and assets that are utilizing, again, those applications that drive your business. So both internal employees as well as those external third parties and collaborators. And again, that data feed or that insight is what enables continuous monitoring across all the SaaS application activity, which is a core component to zero trust. The next piece is least privilege. Least privilege is foundational to zero trust. And based on the inventory and the data enrichments, we're able to revoke data access in real time to achieve the least privilege, the principle of least privilege at scale. So users can always share or request access in a just-in-time manner to this very same data over and over so that the business can continue as it should. And I will show this in the demo, assuming I can get into our demo environment from my personal computer. But least privilege is critical. It's a critical part to zero trust, and it's critical to our solution. What else? So yeah, so just to reiterate, so least privilege at the IDP level, like again, identity and least privilege are certainly joined at the hip, but it needs to go below that identity level. So that's what we're doing with our data access controls, and we're laying it throughout the entire SaaS application environment. And the third piece is automation. So we offer automated workflows that are powered through micro segmentation around, again, those users, collaborators, the assets, and the groups. These workflows are not opinionated. They're not hard-coded as they would be with a CASB, but they're very flexible. They're very customizable. and they can be triggered on any event, any end user SaaS event that presents some high level amount of risk. And again, hopefully we can show this in the demo. We have a rich catalog of pre-established policies or workflows that can be adjusted to meet your specific security requirements. So you can create workflows that are based on specific application or use case. So if you have a number of different applications that are similar, like a content collaboration app like Google Drive and Box or Dropbox, you can apply the same policy across all of those different applications from a single secure control point, which is DoControl. But it's not just automation, right? I think most security practitioners or, SecOps, anyone that works in security, they don't want it to be fully automated. So we do have self-service remediation. So when you get into the console, if something looks out of place, you can review each individual, internal and external to the business. If something looks like it's a file is published publicly and it shouldn't be, you can immediately revoke access or change file ownership. So it's a good balance of creating kind of future-proofed secure workflows, as well as enabling the IT and security team to manually intervene as they need to. So here's a visual representation. Again, agentless solution. There's no software installation of any kind. It does not sit in the data path. It's an event-driven platform. It's all driven via APIs and webhooks. We're aggregating all of the different SaaS applications and using the metadata sources and adding value, excuse me, to your existing stack. So it's kind of a bidirectional data feed where we take all the business context from the metadata and the applications that are being leveraged, and we can feed it into some of your existing tools and technologies. So if you look at, your IDP, we obviously connect with those IDP players where we can assign policy based on groups, domains, individuals. If you look at the HR platform or HR application like Bamboo HR, anytime there's an employment status change, that'll automatically trigger workflows, right? So if you want to prevent an employee who's departing the company from sending sensitive files to their personal email account, you can do that. And it's done automatically when that employment change takes place within the HR application. And same thing with SIM and SOAR. We're feeding some of our critical detections, anything that is high risk or has some sort of anomaly associated with it. And we're very much focused on those SaaS applications. So it's a very focused data feed that we're providing to SIM and SOAR solutions. And that's it. I mean, this is what the platform looks like. We provide full visibility across all the different SaaS applications, every identity throughout the entire organization. Continuous monitoring, which we covered, all the activities that are taking place. We can establish a baseline of what is to be considered normal activity, and then automatically identify, any anomalies that take place off of that baseline. The policies, again, consistent centralized enforcement of least privilege throughout your entire SaaS estate. And then again, just to recap, the automation. So you can automatically trigger any of these workflows based on end user activity. So if somebody is and it's not always malicious, right? So if you have a developer that is uploading a PEM file into Slack, right, encryption keys over Slack, that's typically done as part of a normal business practice or standard practice. But a lot of times they don't remove the file afterwards. So you have that PEM file that's just sitting out there, and depending on which channel it's posted to, you might have individuals that shouldn't have access to that or visibility into it. So it's creating workflows that help enable the business, and it makes sure that it's done in a secure way. Obviously, security does not want to be a blocker to the business. And from a product development side of things, we are very focused on trying to strike that balance of enabling security, enabling the business, but not bogging them down or creating obstacles for business users and standard users. And again, we can show that in some of the demo where, if something is considered to be lower risk for as part of a business process or a workflow, you can notify the individual actor instead of notifying the IT team. You don't have to bog down your security ops team with events that take place that might be risky. Like sharing, depending on certain groups, like if you work in the finance department, you might work with outside consultants to share sensitive data. So you can apply these policies based on risk, right? Certain groups and identities carry a higher level of risk, so you can apply those automated workflows based on those users. So, all right, let's see if we can do a solution demo. I'm going to have to see if I can email myself our demo environment. I'm not super hopeful that we can do this, but let's give it a shot.
And by the way, if anybody has questions in the meantime, because I see there's quite a few people on that question mark there on the right, click on that and we can get to your questions. I did have one person talk about how technical difficulties rule.
Yeah. Par for the course. And Sam and I recognized that we didn't have the ability to share screens, 15 minutes before the webinar started, and we still were unable to get it done. Right. So let me see if I can log in with my DoControl alias. If I'm unable to, Sam, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do the demo. But let me see if I can do this. All right. Just give me a couple minutes here. I have to type in this ridiculously long password.
Maybe I should play my guitar for everybody.
Go for it.
These are also part of my costume. Cool.
All right. Let me share my screen again. And 1 second here. And I'm going to be limited to showing some of the workflows because I want to have access to the demo files that we typically share out. So I'll just walk through the product and kind of explain how these would look if I was able to share my screen properly. So let's just go ahead and do that now. All right. So this is the DoControl service, right? So this is your pretty standard view in terms of like, this is your dashboard. So it highlights all the different assets, the users, the collaborators. Again, kind of your super high level view, all the different applications that have been onboarded into the platform, all the different policies that are active. Let's just go through some of these tabs quickly. In terms of onboarding applications, it's extremely straightforward and literally takes just a few minutes for each application, but you can see in this demo environment all the different apps that we have integrated with DoControl. And essentially what you're doing is requesting read-write permissions. And depending on what you want to do with our solution, you could limit it to just reading. So if you want visibility, but you don't want to leverage any of the enforcement functionality that we provide, then you would just limit the integration to read access. So super straightforward. You can see, we've really prioritized the applications that modern businesses are leveraging. DoControl's been around for a little bit of time. We're we're, as time goes by, we're certainly onboarding more applications or providing support for more applications based on customer demand and based on just general, what the modern business is using. So that's the integrations tab. Events, again, we correlate all the different events that take place. Not going to spend too much time here, but it's literally just providing visibility into every event that takes place. Of course, you can filter if you're looking for specifics. In kind of the same vein, we have inventory, so you can go into individual users, right? So this is our demo environment. Here you can see Corey O'Connor. You can, again, select on each identity and look at the events that have taken place. Their activity trail kind of creates an audit trail of what's happened. And same thing, right? This is the self-service remediation. If there's something here, right? This was the demo test document that I was going to share with myself, but due to the technical issues, if this shouldn't be, if this was set as an external asset and it shouldn't be, you can take quick actions. You can change the owner, you can remove public share. This hasn't been set to have external collaborators on it. If it did, you can revoke that access. So again, this is that self-service versus automation. Here you can see all the different assets, right? So here's all the different applications, and you can see an event trail. So the way that it works is we're querying the JSON. So this is what enables us to create very granular data access control policies that can address limitless use cases because, excuse me, it's all driven by the events that are taking place within your SaaS applications. And that's a good segue into the workflows. So I mentioned in the slides that there's a few different ways you can go about it, right? We have this rich catalog of different workflows or policies that you can establish. These are pre-established, right? But they're editable, so you can customize this. And again, these were really prioritized based on how our customers are currently using the product, right? Like preventing public sharing of files within Google Drive. This is a pretty common use case. And here you can see it's completely editable. We created a template, so you can adjust this. You can, pull in specific events. There's shortcuts here, but you can pull in, any events that take place within the environment. There's shortcuts here. So if it's, coming from a specific shared ID, again, it's very super easy to use, low code, no code, kind of a WYSIWYG canvas where you just drag and drop all these different notification steps. You can create conditions and flow control. So if under certain criteria, if you want something like, let's say that you want to scan for PII, right? Let's say that we scan the file and there is no PII, then that file is okay to be shared to a third party. If it's scanned and it does have PII, then you can reroute that to the individual to have them confirm that file should actually be shared externally. If it's more sensitive than that, then you can have it directed directly. You could have it sent directly to your security ops team, and this can be done via email. It can be done via Slack, where you can create a Slack channel, like a SaaS security event Slack channel, where again, maybe you have you can chop it up where you have maybe certain personas within the security team. Maybe managers should be made aware of certain events. So you can create a specific Slack channel and notify the events that take place. If it's a lower priority, you can have them directed to folks that are more individual contributors. And again, you could even notify the individual actor. So this is, again, where we're trying to achieve that strong balance of enabling the business and not, slowing down the security team and slowing down the business, right? So we can put it back on the individual actor. Should this user still be, this external collaborator still have access to this data? Maybe they do. If they do, you can approve it. You can create, let's go back here. You can create timeframes, right? So let's just drop one in. If you want to wait, let's say 30 days, you can do that. And then you can have it reroute, right? So triggering is just the sharing. If you want to email it, then you can literally connect each of these different steps into the workflow, right? So let's go back. Just cover one more thing. We're running out of time here. So just to cover, so you can also start from scratch, right? So you can establish these workflows based on application or use case. So here's the trigger event. You type in the details. You can select the different types of events that are relevant. So again, if it's a content collaboration application, you can select all of those applications. You can establish the conditions. So let's just do one quickly. You can, again, contains, equals, like DoControl, right? So if it's folks within DoControl, you can adjust all of these different steps and conditions based on whatever policy it is that you're trying to establish, right? So I was going to share with you guys an actual workflow. So what I was going to do here is show just a couple of use cases, like approving specific files. So what I was going to do here was, here's a workflow that we had created. And I had a sample Google document that I would share with my personal email account, but under the assumption that, let's say that Corey O'Connor at Gmail is an approved, third party that we're working with. So we can approve that access, and we would automatically notify that individual, which is me, Corey at DoControl, that file had been shared to an external third party. And in our Slack environment, we have an automated notification that appears. And then the other one was, third party access. So in this example, I have a customer database or an Excel file that has customer information on it. And what we do is we enable access to that third party. And then that third party, if they then tried to share that file with another user, another email alias, a personal email address or whatever, it would block that event, right? So this is, showing the actual secure workflows in real time. Like that's what I was going to show in the demo. And same thing here, we'd have a Slack notification, and I set it up so I'm also emailed that this file was shared externally with or attempted to be shared with the fourth party. So those were the use cases that I was planning to cover. But as you can see, hopefully from the templates, you can leverage an existing template. You can create your own. Again, there's a number of examples that we've already established for some of the different applications that we support. And this is something that our development team is continually improving and adding more of these templates. Let me just share my slides one more time, and we can wrap things up. So essentially, again, just to recap, DoControl provides a single security strategy that centralizes the enforcement of least privilege beyond the identity, network, and device levels throughout your entire SaaS application estate. And let me just pull up. Sorry, we're fumbling over here. And again, kind of circling back to NIST, the main focus for this webinar, we focused on the data access engine and the policies that are, logical components within zero trust architectures. And that is a huge area that DoControl is helping satisfy, right? As hopefully as I had shown in the quick demo that we walked through, the flexibility, the granularity, the ability to enforce least privilege, the automation that you can enforce, the control that you have, and the visibility that you have within your complicated SaaS application environment. So in relation to NIST, obviously at DoControl, we feel that we provide a strong solution that supports those components within NIST's reference architecture. And then lastly, if you'd like to learn more, certainly reach out to us. Visit docontrol.io/demo. If you want a demo request, we can certainly do a more in-depth solution demonstration. In addition to that, we have a risk assessment, so we can hook into all of your applications and provide essentially a report on the amount of data overexposure that your business has. So if you're interested in learning more, definitely visit us, docontrol.io/demo. And with that, Sam, I guess I'll turn it back over to you. If you have...
Yeah, so as I said, if you did have questions, just go ahead and put it in the question mark. I can see a couple here, and some smart Alec talking about my banjo. Doesn't go with my Japanese costume. I don't know. I find Japanese people that play banjo. Maybe not as good as somebody from Kentucky, but all right, so let's see. Does DoControl map to NIST's latest revision of the cybersecurity framework?
Yes. So this was an exercise that we recently went through. So we have a full solution mapping to NIST cybersecurity framework. If you're interested in seeing, which controls, it's a pretty, as you probably know, it's a pretty, it's kind of an eye chart. There's a lot of different controls that are listed, but we do have all of that. All of the controls that we support, it's documented. So if you're interested, certainly reach out to us and we can provide that detail.
Okay, and the last question in here, I see you mentioned NIST's ransomware guidance. Does DoControl have any functionality or capabilities to address ransomware?
Great question. So yes, you might have seen it quickly when I walked through the integrations tab in our solution demo. But we do integrate with CrowdStrike, their EDR solution, Falcon. So CrowdStrike is an investor, they're a customer, and they're a technology partner. So again, we have that integration. And the way that it works is, you can essentially extend CrowdStrike Falcon into your SaaS application environment through the integration that we provide. So as hopefully we had made clear in this webinar, the visibility, the asset management, any malicious files that might exist within your SaaS application environment, the joint solution will capture those malicious files and obviously prevent, in some ways prevent ransomware from, accessing the network and propagating throughout the entire environment, so on and so forth. So yes, we do have an integration with CrowdStrike.
All right, fantastic. That was the last question, and that ends our session. Thank you, everybody. We've got another one coming up in a couple of weeks with our CEO, and he's going to be talking about different threat models. Should be awesome. Anyway, thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next one. And the recording will be sent out to everybody. And thanks again for all your interest in DoControl. If you have questions, let us know. All right, take care. Thanks, Corey. That was awesome.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Bye, guys.